Well, it took 38 games, but the Celtics just got their butts kicked. All you can do is move on from this. But Joe Mazzulla did make a point, and there was a silver lining, and I'm going to talk about it all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, Keith John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And I've got you covered every single day after every single game with a free, fresh podcast dropped directly to your device if you're a subscriber. So open up that podcasting app on your phone, click subscribe if you're new to the show, and hop on board the train. Get into that comment section on YouTube as well. It's the best place to kind of talk about the game, talk about the podcast, the things that I'm saying. I am John Karalis. If you're new to the show, I used to play a long time ago. Now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. And, you know, I'm over here doing the show even after the Celtics get absolutely smoked. 135-102. And it really wasn't that close of a game. I'll talk about the need to move on and what you do. What do you do after a game like this? I'll talk about that later. And look, it's not a big deal. Actually, this is an opportunity this can be an opportunity to kind of get a little bonding, get a little, just actually have some fun with the absolute worst of a moment. So I'll talk about that later. Joe Mazzulla pulling the starters at the half. That was an interesting decision. I'll talk about that in the second segment. But let's just talk about the game and this schedule loss. It really was a schedule loss. So I'm not too worried about it. Today's show is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, which provides you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. With the code Locked On, get $20 off your order. That's JASE medical.com. I feel like I need a lot of medicine to digest what we saw in Milwaukee. I feel bad for Jrue Holiday that he went back and this was his big return game, a revenge game, not so much, but the return game anyway. And, you know, he got a nice ovation and a nice tribute video at the first time out. And at that point, it was still kind of a game. We're focusing on, like, they were down by as much as 43 at one point. But, you know, at the beginning, the Celtics, okay, it was a hot start for Milwaukee. Boston did fight back. They cut the lead down to, I think, 3. And, you know, Milwaukee had a late run. They got it to an 18-point lead at the end of the first quarter. But up until, like the 4 minutes to go in the first quarter or so, it was still within somewhat striking distance. I was still having the feeling of like, okay, the Celtics are coming out slow. They're playing at a different speed. The Bucks are coming out playing like a desperate team. I think we have to understand that the Bucks were very, very desperate here. They had just gone through, so far in 2024, a really rough start. 4 or 5 games, losers of 4 or 5 games. They lost to Houston. They lost to Utah right before playing the Celtics. They have 2 losses to Indiana. This has not been great. They played a game against San Antonio, and that was it was an awesome game to watch, but for Milwaukee, it was like a back and forth, really incredible fight. They had to work really, really hard to beat the Spurs. So that it hasn't been the easiest start to 2024 for them. So they were a little bit desperate. They were rested. They had a couple days off. And so the beginning of the game, I thought, this Celtics team looks like a team that's not only on a back-to-back, That's not only on a back-to-back that went into overtime. That was a very tough game. Third game in 4 nights, fifth game in 7 nights. When we say schedule loss, this is as schedule loss as you're going to find. Back-to-back home road, right? You play home, you go to Indy. You play 2 games against the same team, which is always tough. Then you come home, which is basically another road game because you come home, you play at home, and then you've got to leave. They left straight from the arena to go to the airport. It's the same thing you do on the road. It's a road game at home. And then you go home road back-to-back against Minnesota, the best team in the West and the best defensive team in the league, even without Gobert, to Milwaukee, who, regardless of their rough start, on a back-to-back, this was always going to take a really, really special effort. And all you needed to know about the first quarter was Jaylen Brown was 2 of 7 and for 4 points. Jaylen Brown owns first quarters. He, I think, leads the NBA in first quarter as a regular, leads the NBA in first quarter field goal percentage. I got to double check that stat. I think I saw that Dick Light put that out. But if not, he's at the top of the league or near the top of the league. Either way, he's an amazing first quarter player. That doesn't mean every first quarter is going to be great, but he was 2 of 7. And that, I thought, was very indicative of how this game was going. Tatum comes out 1 of 4, was a minus 17 in the first quarter. They looked like they were playing a different speed. It felt like they wanted to do the right thing. I felt like they also couldn't get to that level where they needed to get themselves to the speed, the processing. I think mentally they weren't processing things at the way they normally did. And so they fought at the beginning of the quarter, the beginning of the first quarter. And then at the end of the first quarter begins a 6.5 minute scoreless stretch where Milwaukee goes on like a 25-0 run. And that was it. They were toast at that point. And even at that point, I was thinking, like, look, it's still in the second quarter. It was a 30-point game. I thought, look, all you got to do is just get it down to a manageable spot. Like halfway through the second quarter, I thought, just get some stops, get it to a manageable spot. There's an entire half left. You can make a run. You can come out of the blocks in the third quarter, make a run, and maybe cut this into something manageable to maybe steal it at the end. But they couldn't even do that. They never had a chance. Nothing was going their way. The shots weren't falling. They couldn't hit a 3. They couldn't hit any kind of jumper at all. They had some success at the rim early, but even that was fleeting. They couldn't get any bounces. They were tripping. Jaylen Brown, running back on defense, just tripped over his own feet, and Giannis got by him for a dunk. It was just nothing was going right. They didn't have it. They didn't have it from the beginning, and it was obvious. So all of the things that I was normally thinking, like, hey, maybe if you do this, you can maybe do that. Like, no. It was very clear that they didn't have it. Joe Mazzulla recognized that. And to start the second half, all of the regulars, all of the starters sitting on the bench. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what Joe Mazzulla did there and the decision and the motivation behind it. Today's show is brought to you by Jase Medical. Jase is going to help you stay protected because we know that storms in the Northeast, storms wherever you are across the country can really put you in a bind, or wherever you are. Maybe you're going somewhere, you're on vacation, you're an outdoors person. You never know when you're going to run into a situation where you need something like an antibiotic. There are supply chain issues. There's shortages of some of these antibiotics, and you don't want to be caught without one when you need one. So that's why Jase Medical has the Jase case. It's a pack of 5 different antibiotics that treats a long list of bacterial illnesses, including things like UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, and other things like that. This stuff can happen to any of us at any time. And if you're in a situation where you can't get yourself to a doctor, pharmacy isn't available, the medication isn't available, Jase Medical can get you covered. Go to jasemedical.com, use the offer code locked on. You're going to get $20 off your order. All you got to do is go to jasemedical.com, complete your physician encounter. It'll be reviewed by a board certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. So it's never been more important to be prepared. Go to jasemedical.com, use the offer code locked on to get $20 off your first order. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Forget about the fake debate shows. Forget about sitting there at 12 noon or 1 or whatever it is in the afternoon that you're looking for something to watch. You're looking for something to put on at work. Don't listen to fake debates. Listen to actual people who know what they're talking about, actually having a discussion. Whatever the big stories are, it's on Locked On Sports Today. Put it on, leave it on. You've got yourself covered all day long with some great, great sports talk and coverage. Halftime comes around. The Celtics are down by, God, what was the halftime score? It was, they were down 41-23 after one, 34-15 in the second quarter. So that's 75-38. God, I've already moved on. I forgot that it was 75-38 at the half. What do when it's 75-38? You sit your starters and they just chill for the rest of the game. You get your second unit, plenty of run, and you let them kind of get their minutes, which is great. Like, silver lining, I'm happy that these guys, first of all, we knew, I just went through the whole thing about how this was a scheduled loss. So I knew it was going to take a special effort to win this game or to even be in this game. It didn't happen. And they got smoked. It's the first time they've gotten smoked all year. The Orlando game, they lost by 17, but this is the first, like, pillar to post, just wall to wall. You walk in, they just smack you right away, and you got nothing for them, right? First round knockout, you're done. For it to happen at game 38 is actually a testament to how good this team is and how hard they fight. It really is. Every team's going to get blown out. It's going to happen, right? It happens to every good team. You're not going to avoid that at all. For it to only happen once so far, and we're about halfway through the season, kind of impressive, actually, for a team to go this long before laying an egg. That's pretty good. And so they come out. I just said, like, they played 5 games in 7 nights and blah, blah, blah. Tired. Well, now Jaylen Brown plays 18 minutes. Jayson Tatum plays 16. Porzingis plays 21. D. White, 17.5. Holiday, 18.5. I'm kind of cool with that. It's like, you know what? This is kind of like a practice. They don't have to, sit down, take the second half off, get your mind right, and let the second unit go and get their minutes. And you had Peyton Pritchard lead this team in scoring with 21 points, playing 30.5 minutes. Sam Hauser gets almost 24 minutes. Brissett gets 17.5 minutes. Shvi Mikhailuk gets 17.5 minutes. He hits a few shots. He's 2 of 3 from 3. Get him going a little bit. Lamar Stevens, 19.5 minutes. Not shooting well, but doing other things, getting to the line, rebounding, and that stuff. I love the fact that Joe Mazzulla challenged a foul on Lamar Stevens and won in the fourth quarter. Halfway through the fourth quarter, game is very much over. But you know what? Shout out to Joe Mazzulla. He's done this before. To go out there and to fight for his second unit the same way he fights for the first unit, to respect the second unit by going out there and coaching them with the same energy that he coached the first unit. Look, if I'm Lamar Stevens and I know I'm not getting these opportunities, that's the type of guy that I'm still going to fight for. And he's talked about that. There was a Celtics blog had a one-on-one interview with him at a recent community event, and he said as much. Like, he actually is enjoying himself, even though he's not playing a lot in these games. He's enjoying being part of this team. He's gotten close with some of these guys. And for him to get out here and get these minutes, and for Joe to make the decision, like at halftime, hey, you know what? We're going to you guys. You guys go out there, win us a quarter. Go out there, and they won the second half for whatever that's worth. I don't think it means much, but for them, they can sit there and be like, hey, we won the second half. You know, so any little bit that you can hang on to here, they'll take. But you never know when you're going to need one of these guys. And if they feel at all disrespected, if they feel at all not fully, they're not getting the full engagement of the coaching staff, then why would they put in the full effort? Things like this, these little tiny things in a game like this and other games where the Celtics have the huge lead, it'd be nice to have more of these opportunities with the Celtics blowing out teams. Those things all add up. They all pile up. For what it's worth, a guy like Lamar Stevens can go and sit on the team plane and be like, you know what? Yeah, this loss, it sucked. I'm part of this team. But also, I feel like the coach has my back. And if somebody goes down in a playoff game and Joe says, hey, Lamar, get in there, Joe feels good about this guy being prepared, because everybody involved is giving the full effort all the time. Whether it's a bench guy, whether it's a starter, the coaches are giving it the full effort all the time. I think that is actually meaningful. So I like that Joe made that challenge. I like that Joe gave them the entire second half. I like that he sat these guys. Is there a little bit of an extra message kind of baked in? Like, hey, if you guys aren't going to be, playing this, this way, you're not going to get your stats. You're going to have to, your averages are going to take a little bit of a hit. Maybe there's a little bit of that, but actually I don't think that's part of Joe's thinking. I just think that he did what was best. And what was best was these guys were tripping all over themselves, falling everywhere, literally falling all over themselves. And there was no value to playing them in the third quarter. Now, maybe last year, super competitive Joe Mazzulla, without that year under his belt and recognizing things, I bet you he probably throws those guys out there and plays them the whole third quarter to see if he can get this game close, because he absolutely needed to win every game. This one, I applaud his willingness to say, hey, it's not our night. So let's just move on. And that's what you do. You move on. That's the best thing that the Celtics can do. And I'll talk about that because there's value to that. There's value in everything. There's value in everything in the NBA, even if it's just throwing the game film into the Milwaukee River. I'll talk about that in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks. They have the best daily fantasy sports game that you're going to find. And it's the best because it's just you and projections. You get to go and find the projections for any sport you want, basically, in the world. And they set the projections, more or less. You pick up the 6 players. If you get enough right, pick more or less than whatever they set the projections at, you can win up to 25 times your money. If you pick 6 and you don't get all 6 right, you can still get some money back. So it's fun. Go and have a blast with daily fantasy sports in a way that you haven't been able to anywhere else. You can combine sports in their specials leagues. So if you don't just want to do basketball, you want to do basketball and football, basketball and golf, basketball and hockey, hockey and golf. Pick any combination, man. You got it. at PrizePicks, and you don't have to worry if a player you've chosen gets hurt because they've got a reboot policy. Player gets hurt in the first half, doesn't come back in the second half. Players rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with that kind of injury insurance. It's very simple. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use that code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. So right away, you get something, right? You deposit up to 100, they'll give you up to 100 in a first deposit match. It's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use that code LockedOnNBA. PrizePicks, it's daily fantasy made easy. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA. Rotating hosts all week long. It's a fun show covering the league, all the big stories in the league. I host on Wednesdays with Jake Madison of Locked On Pelicans. We have a good time. So I hope you would have a good time too. It's a fun show. All right. So what do you do when you're down by like 40 early, like in the third quarter, halftime? What do? Well, you chalk it up. You move on. That's the number one thing you can do. There's nothing to linger on. There's nothing to dwell on. You're not going to sit there. Do not come at me with, oh, they launched 34 3-pointers. They lost because they didn't hit threes. Nope. They didn't have it. They didn't have anything. So this was not a loss because they couldn't hit threes. This was not a loss because they were just jacking threes indiscriminately. This was you came into the game, you had nothing from the start, and you got your butts kicked. Happens. It happens. They're just, if you've played any level of organized basketball, for any amount of time, you've probably been on both sides of this. I've been in blowout wins. I've been in blowout losses. When you get crushed like the Celtics did, if I'm Joe Mazzulla, I'm finding a way to play like Friday on the plane ride home. I'm making that plane ride home as much fun as possible. I'm sending the message. We're moving on. Forget it. We are forgetting about this. Let's just move on to Houston. Give Luke Cornett the microphone and let him do some stand-up. Do whatever you need to do to get these guys laughing and joking and moving on. This is not one you dwell on. This is not like the loss against Golden State where they had the big quiet bus ride on their way to Sacramento. This is not that type of situation. This is a situation where you don't want to watch the film. You don't want to go back and replay anything in your minds. You don't, like, maybe some of the bench guys, I will say the bench guys that we just talked about, you can take Brissett, you can take Mikhailuk, you can take Stevens and do individual film sessions with those guys. That's valuable. That's valuable to them. The first half, flush it. It's done. It's gone. The message is sent. If I'm the coach, I'm throwing a freaking party. I'm stopping by the liquor store on the way back to them, grabbing a couple of cases of beer. I'm tossing guys, Stone Cold Steve Austin style. I'm tossing these guys cans of beer, and we're tapping them, and no one's getting Stone Cold Stunners. We're just tapping beers and chugging them. Like, that's the atmosphere that I want on this plane. Forget it. Chalk it up. Move on. And I think I'm actually impressed with, my fan interaction. I do a live kind of blog on Boston Sports Journal for every game. So throughout the game, I'm sharing some of them as tweets, and I do tweet something separately, but I'm doing like a live blog kind of reaction thing on Boston Sports Journal. So there are fans. Some of you might be subscribers who participate in that, which I always love to see people's takes. I like going back and forth with people on it. And Twitter, that's my in-game kind of fan interaction. And I know that basing reactions off of social media is a problematic thing, but actually I'm impressed with the attitudes that I saw after this game, during this game. I think most people who are watching, who are following this team, understand that this was a complete and utter aberration. That this is not indicative of what this Celtics team is. This Celtics team, this year's team, has, like I said before, this is the first time they've walked in and had nothing from the start and couldn't find anything. Even the OKC game, where it looked like they were on their way to something like this, they fought and they came back and they really put pressure on OKC to close the game. So those types, that's the fight that I'm talking about. So this is an aberration, and I'm not worried about it in the slightest bit, because aberrations happen, like every once in a while. It's like, you buy like this hoodie. They make millions of these hoodies, and every once in a while a machine's going to put the zipper on like sideways, and you're like, oh, well, that's not how this goes. We'll just throw this into the irregular pile and ship it off to, an outlet somewhere, or donate it to, some thing, and whatever. Somebody's got a crooked zipper. That's what this is. That's what this loss is. So I'm all about just chalking it up. Have some fun with it. If Jaylen Brown can laugh at himself for tripping behind, and falling down where, on that Giannis dunk, just laugh it off. Have fun with it. And I'm impressed that Celtics fans have kind of done that. Most Celtics fans, aside from like a couple, which doesn't even really count, most Celtics fans that I've seen are like, yep, that sucked. We kind of expected it. Everyone understood what the schedule was. Everyone has been paying attention. That's why Celtics fans really are the best, because they really do pay attention. Not a lot of hand-wringing at all. Not any hand-wringing at all. Tough loss. Sucks. You don't want to see them lose, but they did. They got their butts kicked. They got it handed to them. Blow it off. Move on. Now, Saturday. Saturday's going to be a tough one. Houston, Ime Udoka, you got the emotions of Ime Udoka coming into town. You've got Houston that is no joke. They're not just going to walk in and lay down. They play hard. Ime's got them playing hard. That's going to be a game you have to go win. How do you respond out of this? That's the most important thing. If they come out and suck, then, maybe I look a little bit like an idiot, and they have to work their way through whatever struggles they're working through. More than likely, I expect them to go out there and have a big, strong response, right? They're going to want to wash the taste of this game out of their mouths just as much as you want to wash the taste of this out of your mouth as well. I mean, frankly, I'm doing this podcast. I know I'm probably doing it for like 15 people because no one wants to hear the reaction to, being down by 40 in this game. But hey, whatever. Those of you who are listening, those of you who are new and who have stuck around this point, I love you. Thank you so much. This is a nothing game. The beauty of this game happening on the day that Bill Belichick steps down is that most people, aside from you, the diehard fan, most people are going to be like, oh, wait, the Celtics played? Sports talk radio, sports, like all Boston TV stations, it's all Belichick all the time, all Patriots all the time. Who's the next coach going to be? It's so Patriots. This is the one time I'm actually happy that it's so Patriots heavy, because I'm sure the Celtics are happy about it too, because they can just like sneak under the radar, show up on Saturday and be like, did you guys play the other? No. This is the last game. We won the game against Minnesota, and I don't know, we kind of blacked out for a day, and here we are against Houston. So if you're a new listener, thank you so much. Subscribe, please. If you're a regular listener, my everydayers, love you to death. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. I'd love it now if you share the podcast, spread the word, tell your friends, tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.